Welcome back, everybody, to On Point Talk, the Carlette Christmas Show. This morning, we are talking to Kinsley Patterson Harris. She's been a nurse for a long part of her life, taking care of others. And now she has found that she needs to be taken care of as she is awaiting a heart transplant. This is a story of faith, hope, and overcoming. We welcome her to the OPT network. Kinsley, good morning and welcome. So, first of all, take us back to when you decided to become a nurse.
Well, actually, as far as I can remember, I was 11, 12 years old. My grandmother was diagnosed with heart failure. So,
Your
I was,
grandmother was diagnosed with heart failure.
yes, ma'am. My grandmother was diagnosed with heart failure and she had multiple surgeries and she was also diabetic. So I was learning how to give her insulin injections and, treating her because she lived with us. So it was like she was there. So, and I was the oldest of my mom's kids. So I
Mm-hmm.
was helping, to care for her and just being there. And I was like, hey, I like to care for people. So,
Wow. And so tell people what part of Alexandria, Louisiana you're from. Where'd you grow up at?
well, I actually grew up in a little town called Lena, like little past Boyce. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually from what they call Taylor Hill, I
Uh-huh.
guess you could say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I lived there like my whole childhood, and then since my where about 21, I've lived in Alexandria.
Mm-hmm. And so then you make a decision to become a nurse and tell us about that journey.
Well, I graduated nursing school in 2009, and like since then I worked at a few facilities in Alexandria, but the last facility that I worked at was Matthews Memorial. I worked there for about 8 years. So I was actually diagnosed with the heart failure while I was working there.
Mm-hmm. Where where
So
where where is Matthews Memorial?
it's on Jackson Street,
Mm-hmm.
Jackson and Versailles.
Uh-huh. Is that a nursing care facility?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Mm-hmm. And so did you start to what were the symptoms to you getting sick?
I was having like basic cold symptoms like coughing, kind of shortness of breath. So I was going to the doctor because I was thinking that I had maybe something, upper respiratory going on. So they were diagnosing me. I was diagnosed with actually pneumonia like 3 times within a 1 year period prior to being diagnosed with the heart failure.
Wow.
So
So
yeah.
pneumonia 3 times before you get diagnosed with heart failure?
Right.
So when do they decide to look at your heart?
Well, in 2019, I got pregnant with my 5 year old, and I went to my first doctor's appointment actually, and my heart rate was like in the 130s. And he was like, "Hey, it's something going on." He was like, "It's no way your heart rate is supposed to be this high." So he referred me to a cardiologist, and they did a echo, and my heart function at that time was like 20%.
So what's your heart rate supposed to be?
It's supposed to be a normal resting heart rate for me now. It's like in the 80s, 70s or 80s.
Mhm.
So it was like in the 130s at that time.
Wow. And so when you see the cardiologist, he says your heart function is what at that time?
It was 20% at that time.
So what is your immediate reaction to that?
I mean, I would have never thought, that even as a nurse that I had heart failure. So it was a lot to take in. I mean, it was devastating. I was only 32 years old at the time. So it was, yeah, it was a lot. So I actually had a choice. I had just found out that I was expecting, and They actually advised me to not have my 5-year-old, because they didn't think that my heart was strong enough.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah,
So
and I decided.
so you're pregnant at the time. You find out that your heart is not functioning, but at 20%. And then how do you and your husband decide what the next course of action? Because are they asking you to abort at that time?
Right, yes, ma'am. So, of course, I prayed about it. We prayed about it, and I just kind of talked to my doctor, and we explored the different medication options, and I was able to carry him up until he was actually born 3 weeks early, and he was perfectly healthy, normal. So my pregnancy, it was hard. They were trying me on different medications the entire time I was pregnant, but like it didn't affect the baby. Like he wasn't born, with a heart issue. So it's
And so after you have the baby, what happens then to the heart function?
well, after I had him, when he was about 4 months old, my heart function started to decrease even more. And I started to get really sick, to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. Um, I mean, I was just couldn't do anything. I was weak. So my family actually called for the ambulance to come get me one day because I mean I was just like I was dying. My blood pressure was like 67 over 42, I think, at the time. Like I was dying and I didn't even know it. So
Wow.
they took me to Rapids and I was there probably for about a week and a half. And they after that they transferred me to New Orleans because my heart failure was like advanced at that time. So um I was already requiring a heart transplant. So
Wow.
they transferred me there to see what my other options would be while I wait on a heart transplant.
So out of all the patients that you've taken care of, did you kind of have an inner knowing that when they call for the ambulance that you're maybe losing life?
I did, but I did not realize how bad it was because, I've treated a lot of patients. I've treated a lot of patients with heart failure. I've watched my grandmother with heart failure, but I've never had anybody with heart failure to the extent of actually needing a heart transplant. So my condition was like a little bit worse than what I was actually used to seeing.
Mm-hmm. So when you get to New Orleans and they give you the news that you need a heart, we're going to take a break here and we're going to talk about that and how your family comes together. Stay on point. We're back right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is Kinsley Patterson Harrison. And we're talking about her story of strength, faith, and hope. And before we went to the break, Kinsley, we were talking about being transported from Rapides to New Orleans and them telling you that that you were in need of a heart transplant. What goes into the conversation with your husband and your family when you get this news?
Um, First, it's just a thought of fear, my children, my husband. He was actually at the hospital with me when I found out, about the heart failure. So he pretty much had an understanding of everything that was going on, but it was more so um my daughters at the time were 13 and 9. So it's like, they were a little bit younger, they were old enough to understand, but they were still you know, babies too. So
Mm-hmm.
it was hard to take in, and of course them hearing, that mommy's very sick, I need a heart. Kids automatically think, they don't want their mom to die, so it was a lot emotionally, mentally, trying to get them to understand. And so I
So
went to New Orleans.
so what does the doctor say about like your chances of like after y'all you have to have the transplant, what are your chances that you'll get a heart?
Well, they told me that my chances of getting a heart right there at that time were very slim. So they decided to do a alternative surgery, which is they placed a battery operated heart, which was a temporary fix until I actually do get a heart transplant. So I in 2020 I had open heart surgery where they went in and they placed this battery operated device, and uh, it's what they called a bridge to transplant. So it bridges me, to be able to live, to be able to have life until I actually do receive a heart transplant.
And so was that surgery a success?
It was a success. I I actually spent 47 days in the hospital after the surgery. It was open heart surgery, so I spent 47 days in the hospital in New Orleans, and it was during COVID at the time. So it was like, I couldn't see my kids. They weren't allowed to visit. Um I was allowed one visitor per day. So say my husband came that day, he was my only visitor, or my mom came that day, she was my only visitor. So it was kind of hard,
Hmm.
uh being away from my children, for that long period of time.
Talk about your faith walk on this journey.
Um, I my faith, without God, without my faith, I know that this journey would be so much harder. I lost my mom a year and a half ago, and
I'm sorry.
she was my prayer partner. She was my strength through all of this. She had been here with me since the beginning. So it's like she poured so much into me spiritually. And that's where a lot of my strength came from. So it's been tough, without her, because it's like it wasn't just my mom, she was the person who prayed for me every single day, prayed with me every single day, encouraged me every day. So
Wow. Kinsley, we're sorry about the loss of your mother. What happened to her?
she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer about 2.5 years ago, and she fought. She went through treatment of chemo and radiation, and she actually beat the cancer. Like, she beat the cancer. But the doctors were saying, that there was no cure, of course, for pancreatic cancer. So she has to continue the radiation treatment, and the effects of the radiation treatment burned her internally. So she had severe internal bleeding, and that's what caused her death.
So now your mother dies on the journey. Y'all are sick pretty much at the same time.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you pick yourself up from your mother's death to continue to fight your own fight?
Went every day I get up, I thank God, I ask him for strength, and every day I think of her, and I think of how she fought up until the last moment, and it gives me hope. It gives me hope. Like, she trusted in God up until her last breath. Like,
Mm.
her last words to everybody was that she still believes in God, and it's my reason for fighting.
What was your last conversation, with your mom when she knew she was making her transition?
My last conversation, actually a couple of hours before she passed away, and like, she wasn't talking much at the time, so I just kind of put my head on her, and I told her that I was going to be okay, that
Mm-hmm.
the kids were going to be okay, my siblings were going to be okay, that we were going to take care of each other. And I thanked her for pouring so much into me, spiritually. So,
So for all the people who are watching your journey and who are following you on social media and who are listening and watching to this conversation, tell people what it is that you and your family need and how we can help.
well, right now we're asking just for support while I'm here in the hospital. Um they're not sure how long I'll be here. Um could be 6 months or longer just in the hospital. And then after the transplant, I'll have to be here for at least 3 months. So I'll have to have temporary post transplant housing for at least 90 days. So I'm asking for support with post transplant housing. Um, Medication costs, like after transplant, I'll be required to take medication pretty much for the rest of my life so that my body will not reject the heart. So I'll be responsible for about 20% of medication costs. Just basic needs, help with my children, transportation to and from doctor's appointments after transplant care.
Mm-hmm.
So
What's every day like waiting?
every day, um, I've been hopeful. Um, every day waiting, I'm praying and hoping today is the day, but I've also learned to have patience as well. And I just thank God for, his strength to get me from day to day while I am waiting.
Wow. Before you've got to go, tell people about your GoFundMe link where they can go on and donate.
Um, I have a GoFundMe link. I'm on Facebook actually. It's Kinsley Patterson Harrison, and my GoFundMe link is located right on my page. It's pinned to my page, so you'll be able to find it there.
Kinsley, you are an inspiration. You're in our thoughts, in our hearts, and in our prayers. And please keep us posted.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
Indeed. Stay on point. We're back right after this.